support. I can tell you, in my own riding, also in both, I have the same challenge that you're having. People are coming to me, oh Maxime, oh yeah, I'm gonna vote for you, but what is the name of your party? In my own riding in both, they are saying that to me. Oh Maxime, we know you are gonna vote for you, but what is the name of your party again? So that's the only challenge that we have. Can you believe? Just the only challenge to be known, to be out there. So I count on you and I count on everybody. And I want to thank you, people who are on social media. You're doing a great job. Each time on social media, we are winning over there the argument. We are winning the argument. And we are using social media very wisely because we have something to say. So if you look at the Twitter account of Jack Mincy or Trudeau or Scheer, there's nothing there. But for us, our strategy is very well known. Every morning, I'm having a discussion with my team, and we look at the news. And we try to use the news to promote our policies, because we have something to say, so it's easy. So every day on our Twitter account, Facebook page, we use the social media to promote our policies. And you know, the news is helping us a little bit. With the fires that happen in Brazil and other countries, you know, the world is supposed to be in fire. But actually 10 years ago, the BBC, and you know, the BBC is not fake news usually. Yes. The BBC, look at that, all the media in Canada, in English and in French, the last 2 weeks, they were saying, you know, the fires that happen right now on the globe, that's the worst ever, and blah, blah, blah. You've read that, you know that. But the BBC, look at the satellite photos, and you know, we had more fires on this planet 10 years ago than this year. So there's no emergency. The climate is always changing, and that's okay, and it's not because of us human. You know, it's not because of us. CO2, it's a great gas, and it's important for life, but yes, too much CO2, it can affect the climate change, but greenhouse effect too much, but the CO2 is not pollution. It is not pollution, but it tried to put that in our head that it's pollution and we must tax you, regulate you, and do everything, and change our way of life. No, we won't do that. It's very important for us, and we have to explain that to the population. So, Patrick Moore, I'm not a scientist. As you know, Patrick Moore was the ex-founder of the Greenpeace movement, and he's a scientist. And he said, you know, the human activity, it is not the main reason for climate change. It is not the main reason. That's our position. We're not climate denier. We know that the climate is changing. The only thing that is different from us and all the other leaders, it's we don't believe, and scientifically we are right, that the human activity on this planet, it is not, so the CO2, it is not the main reason why we have climate change. There's the sun, the oceans, the volcanoes, there's a lot of things. And so, and I'm not alone saying that with the scientific communities. There's a lot of people there, so we have to explain that. But when Andrew Scheer and Justin Trudeau are saying that they will save the planet and they will be able to respect the targets in the Paris Accord, they are lying. It's not true. If you want to be sure to achieve the targets in the Paris Accord, all the experts are saying you must impose a carbon tax of $300 a ton, not $20 a ton, and they don't have the courage to say that to the population. So Andrew Scheer, with his plan to achieve the Paris Accord, won't be able to do that. Trudeau, same thing, won't be able to do that. They're hypocrites. They're not telling the truth. And that's why we won't sign the Paris Accord, because it's not something that it's important. There's no emergency. There's no climate emergency. And if you look at Newsweek, the edition, if I'm not wrong, I think it's 1981. the edition of Newsweek, the first page was, if we don't do anything, if we don't do anything about the climate, the ocean are rising, and a lot of cities near the ocean will disappear. It was in Newsweek in 1981, and a big emergency. We're in 2019. What's happening with the ocean? Nothing. So it's always, every 10 years, something will happen if we don't do something. But these socialists, they want us to change our way of life. I believe in the humanity. I believe in the freedom. I believe in free enterprise and free markets. Now we have green cars. We have electric cars. It's not a bureaucrat in Ottawa that created an electric car. It's a free market. And people will buy electric cars, more electric cars, when the technology will be better. And they will improve the technology because consumers want that. So let the free market. And do we have a lot of pollution in Canada? No. We have a lot of pollution in the countries where they don't have the same economic development. And that's normal. So we need a sustainable economic development like we had in the past, and the environment, we won't have any disaster with the environment. But we at the People Party, we want to have a concrete policy on the environment, and we will come with that in a couple of days from now. So about climate change, we won't do anything, and if a province wants to do something, that would be, the province can do it. In my own province in Quebec, they have a cap and trade system, so the carbon tax won't be enforced in Quebec because Quebec has its cap and trade system. So environment is a shared jurisdiction. We won't play that game about the emergency climate crisis, but for the environment, we need to be able to have clear lake, clear rivers. We need to be able to swim in our lakes, fish in our rivers, and there are some rivers that are polluted. So we need to do something there. So we'll put more money, concrete things that we can do for the environment. And that's the great and the only policy that we can have for the environment. And because we'll be able to balance the budget, because we'll save $4 billion on foreign aid, because we'll save $5 billion on corporate welfare, we'll use that money to lower your taxes, but also to have a very efficient and concrete policy on the environment to clear our lake, our river, our land, and doing what needs to be done for the environment, but not fighting something that, taking our money away and a socialist policy. We won't do that. There's no crisis. And I think that's an important message. There's no emergency. There's no climate emergency. And the more you say that, I think the better people will understand. And we must be out there and not be shy to speak about that. So that's our political party. No political correctness. We know no political correctness. There's no taboo with us. Like I said before, speaking about pipelines, Andrew Scheer won't say to Quebecers that we must impose a pipeline on Quebec because it's important to have pipelines for our oil and gas industry, and it will be safer for the environment and safer for the population when you transport oil and gas by pipelines than by trains. We know that. I'm coming from Quebec, and we had the big tragedy in Lac Mégantic 6 years ago. But in Quebec, the Quebec government said there's no social acceptability for pipelines, so you won't be able to build a pipeline in Quebec. But we need that not only for the prosperity of our country, but for the unity of our country. When you have 25% of the population in Alberta that are ready to think about the independence and separation because they're fed up with politicians at the provincial level, like the Premier in Quebec, against the development of the oil and gas industry. So I'm saying that in French in Quebec, that we must use the Constitution, the Section 9210, and when you do that, the federal government will have all the authority, the responsibility, the jurisdiction to approve pipeline. And I said in French in Quebec, and the journalist asked me a question about that. He said, Mr. Bernier, if I understand you pretty well, you're going to use the Constitution against the Quebec government, and like that you will impose a pipeline on Quebec. I said, not only on Quebec, maybe on BC. After discussion, if we don't have an agreement, it's too important for the future of this country. Yes, we'll use the Constitution. And by the way, we use that section in the Constitution more than 300 times since Confederation. So we must use it. And the first page in the newspaper in Quebec after that, Bernier wants to impose pipeline on Quebec.
Oh.
And I said, I don't have any problem with that. Do you know why? Because I receive a lot of calls from journalists. They said, Bernier did a big mistake, so let's have him on the phone, on the radio station, on TV. And I was there, and they gave me the opportunity to explain our policy. And I explained that, and Quebecers understand it's only the radical environmentalists in Quebec that are influencing the Quebec government. But people in Quebec, like in Ontario, like in Alberta, they know that transporting oil and gas, it's safer by pipelines than by truck or trains. So that's important. But Andrew Scheer won't say that because he's pandering to Quebec and is too afraid about what the journalists will write about him. But when he's in Alberta, he says,